Have you ever wanted to share your emotions, feelings, and your mental state, but you were too scared, and you thought people would judge you or tell you that you were lying? You just wanted attention or they wouldn't care. Have you ever been peer pressured into doing something that you weren't sure about, but you did it anyway to look cool in front of the person you liked? Well, roughly 68% of teens get experience peer pressure. And 60% of teens don't even share their feelings with the people around them. They suck it up and get on with their life. But this isn't a good thing. I mean, if you're playing poker, it might be, but life isn't poker. I definitely have. Around 2 years ago, I stayed home from school for a couple days because I'd been worried and anxious if my friends would care if I told them my actual feelings. Hi, I'm Finley, and for my quest, I've made a comic book about a young girl who's going through her first day of high school, and her friend is faced with peer pressure. Whilst researching different ways to make a comic, I also researched if any other teens like myself had gone through peer pressure, and I found so many on a website, Your Life Counts. A young girl had actually ended her own life because of peer pressure, and I was so amazed and horrified how many stories were out there. I also found out that 7 in 10 teens every day go through peer pressure, and that's not even the biggest part. 90% of the world every year, not just teens, go through peer pressure. Isn't it crazy? Luckily, I found some helpful tips to reduce peer pressure, like paying attention to how you feel, letting the person who is peer pressuring you know how you feel about the situation, and getting support from a trusted adult. It might be tricky at first, but by doing these things, it will really help in the end. I've been a lover of comics for practically my whole life. I love comics because of how well done the art is and how inspiring the artists and authors are. Here's a question. Raise your hand if you struggled during the pandemic. So did I. In the pandemic, I had a book dedicated to making cute little comics, and in later years, after the COVID ended, I recreated them in the same or different ones. Having been in grade school since I was 3, going from wall-less learning to online learning was difficult and weird, and art was my escape. Here are some examples of what some of the comics I made during COVID. And the one over there, I think I was supposed to give to Pac Michael. Sorry, Pac Michael. You can have it now if you want, 4 years later. But I think the first comic I ever read was Dogman. I loved Dogman so much. And whenever I went to the bookstore, I begged one of my parents to at least get me one of their books. And then my friend introduced me to manga. It felt like I graduated, and it felt weird. Fast forward to Quest. The storyline for my comic was actually based on my own experiences. In primary, a girl that used to be in my class had bullied me and a lot of my classmates. And some of us didn't really know what was going on. So, a year later, she pretended to be the good person. And she was still bullying a lot of us. She would come up to me sometimes and tell me she was going to change, and she apologized over and over again. And I always believed her. And about 3 years ago, I realized that I'd been so unconsciously bullied and manipulated by this girl. And so, for my comic, I wanted to express how me and other people felt whilst being peer pressured. So it made adults and teens understand how they can reduce it and how it impacted our lives. So, I've made a comic book called Magica, Veil of Secrets about a young girl called Kaya who's going through her first day of high school. And she's trying to tell her friend that one of their upperclassmates are not a good person, and they're only trying to use her for her power and knowledge. Whilst doing this, Kaya is also trying to grasp the knowledge that she herself might be half malevolent being, whose species has taken over half the world. This book is about 44 pages long, including the extra pages front and back cover. I also did a 2-day exhibition where I showed some of my characters. These are the characters. And I also connected to people with art, and they drew their characters that express themselves. Here, some of the photos from. One parent came up to me and told her story about manga and anime, and I was so happy to hear her story. I don't know how many books I've sold yet, because I have pre-orders and I haven't given them out yet. Sorry. And most of the profits are going to an organization called Bali Bersama. And they are a mental health hotline who helps teenagers and adults alike go through tough times. I've made this book to help teens understand that bottling up your emotions is not a good idea, and you should listen to the trusting people around you. Not everyone's your friend, especially if your actual friends are being hurt by them. My quest has been on a bumpy road. Like in a video game, choose your path. I didn't choose the most difficult path, but I did choose a challenging one. Some challenges I had were trying to come up with ideas for my book, staying on task because of school, friends, and life, wanting every little thing to be perfect in my book, to perfection, so every time I'd make a mistake, I scrapped the whole idea, threw it out the window, and made a new one. Oh, my bad. Also, the printing process was quite hell, because we spent 5 hours for the formatting, and I don't know why we were there for 5 hours, so yeah. Drawing everything was also quite difficult because I missed out on activities, deadlines, and didn't really get a chance to really do anything besides my quest. But I think my parents were more stressed about Quest than I was. Because before I made my comic, it was supposed to be 100 pages long, and advice from my mother later, we dialed it down to about 20, and then I put 20 more pages on, because I want more pages to express myself, okay? Here are some of the drafted pages from the start of my comic that I scrapped. In total, drumroll please. I've spent 291 hours and 37 minutes on the drawing process. Here are some of also the drafted pages again, and that was our first printing. Yeah. But I thought I could have done so much more. But I found out that I'd done even more than I should. My hopes for peer pressure is that even a little bit goes down. I know a little isn't a lot, but it can still change the minds of teens and adults alike. Here's a quote I've chosen from Dr. Seuss. Why fit in when you're born to stand out? So let those emotions out. Cry if you have to. No one can stop you. And how comics were my way of coping with tough times and COVID, I hope you can find your creative outlet too. Here is the QR code if you'd like to buy one of my books. And I'd like to thank Peck Francis for helping me even before Quest started and for being an amazing mentor. Ibu Laura, Ibu Angie, and Ibu Jules for helping me with my speech and my quest in general, and for allowing me to put some scenes in and delete some scenes. My mother and my dad for helping me with the printing process, the 5-hour one, and just being there. Marianne for letting me host my exhibition at Baja, Erica for giving me tips on my book and also for giving me anime recommendations. Casey for helping me with my book and doing the bubbles for 2 hours. And my friends for just being there for me. And remember, your coping mechanisms are yours. And if someone close to you is stopping you from sharing your emotions and feelings, it's time to let go of that friendship and start making a new one and work on yourself first before changing what you should be different. Yeah.